Alrighty, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Mr. Miller's Woodshop Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Miller. Flying right out of the gate here, I want to talk about IWF a little bit more. Okay, I just have been blown away by that show. I can't believe that I got to go, and that leads me to this episode's sponsor. So I want to thank Safety Speed Manufacturing out of Minnesota, USA, for sponsoring this episode. They are the flagship of the panel saw. Their founder created the panel saw, invented the panel saw back in the middle of the last century. Now they have upgraded it and updated it to do just about anything you want to do, saw and router combination machines to do. But don't be surprised, they also have other stuff, and they're adding stuff to their fleet all the time. They've got a wide belt sander available in 43-inch and 37-inch, single head. They have got 3 versions of the screw pocket machine to give yourself a nice low-angle screw pocket, as well as an edge bander. So look for them if you're looking for those pieces of equipment. All right, so I got to talk about IWF a little bit more. This was Disney World for me. This was heaven on earth. This was the kid in the candy store. I mean, I don't know how many hands that I shook that didn't have enough fingers on them. I mean, it just seems like every other person I shake their hand and kind of feel like there's not enough fingers on this hand, but don't say anything. They're at the right spot. Again, my role at IWF was to play salesman for Safety Speed, and I was also fortunate to gather a bunch of connections myself. Brian Donahue, the president of Safety Speed, he's a very connected man, was able to put me in contact with all kinds of people. Got to go on the Woodworking Network podcast with Will Sampson. Got to meet the teacher of the year, and none of that would have happened if not for Safety Speed, so I'll always be grateful. And I want to talk about like my personal experience there. So like being in Atlanta, traveling down, what I thought of the show. I've gone through 2 episodes now, and I didn't even talk about what I thought of the show. And you can probably gather my thoughts just based off of how I'm speaking now. But I loved it. Okay, it was just huge. I cannot believe how massive that place was. And I didn't even get to see probably a quarter of it. And I had a few hours to walk the show myself. And definitely going back, definitely want to be there. Atlanta was a treat. It is very rare that I even get out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Twin Cities Metro, so the opportunity to get on an airplane and fly over there was just awesome. But I guess I want to start out saying that I really didn't want to go, and that might shock a lot of you now that I've been kind of transformed here, but I don't talk about them too much, but I've got 3 kids that are under 4 years old. My wife stays home with them, and so when I was approached for the summer job to work here at Safety Speed, it wasn't required, but it was strongly encouraged that I attend with them at IWF, and that would mean being gone August 5th to August 9th, and that was another big red flag, not just being gone from my family for 5 days. It was that last day is my son's birthday. So he turned 2 here on August 9th, and it worked out to where Safety Speed was flexible enough to where they got me a flight at about 6 a.m., and I was actually able to meet them at the airport right after breakfast. I think we got the breakfast special at Burger King after and spent a really nice afternoon at Minnehaha Falls after the recommendation of one of the salesmen here, Steve, who lives right by there. Recommended I stop there on the way back, and it was awesome. Okay, so it went well, but I really didn't want to go just because of that personal factor. Like being away from my family for that long is unheard of. Like really, I've been a dad now, coming up on 4 years, and I've only gone one night not being with them, and that was for a wedding out in Wisconsin that they actually joined me with that night before. But I was in the wedding, so I had to attend that groom's dinner. That's super important to the brides and whatnot. And so I was gone for one night then, but now this was back in May or June when we're talking a few months. I'll be gone for 4 days. What does that look like? My kids are real labor intensive at bedtime, and so I'm every night there, and I love that, and I think that's so important, especially with the kids being as young as they are, and the fact that my wife stays home. Not that that's different than the working mom, but she's usually had it by about then, and I'm close behind her, and Getting kids to bed is kind of a challenge when they're still in the toddler, young kid, baby phase, which we've got one of each. So that was a challenge just to kind of think of how that's going to go. And we've got two wonderful mothers. My mom and my mother-in-law are just top tier. They're able to handle all three kids if we ever need to drop them off, which is so helpful. And so it was kind of, before I said yes, I made sure I had good help, good support from my wife, and some folks from my church even offered to bring food by or help out and come over if the case would be. And that never needed to actually happen, but just having that opportunity, that resource to draw on if that needed to be is just so nice. And my dad came over one evening and watched my oldest son, and that let my wife take my daughter to a dance class, and it worked out so well. But thinking this through and trying to plan this out back in May, June was just daunting. It was so daunting to where it was like, maybe I don't go. Maybe I just go work at some random cabinet shop by my house like I usually do. And so made the decision to take the job at Safety Speed. And like I said, they didn't require it. It wasn't like that was part of my contract. It was strongly encouraged, but it wasn't a mandatory thing. And I just last little piece I'll say on this is I just have the best wife in the world, that she is able to handle those three kids for 5 days without me, 4 nights, 4 bedtimes, and none of them sleep through the night. I don't know when that happens. My daughter, even almost 4 years old, she's comes and hangs out with us, or asks for breakfast at ungodly hours of the night. So it's like I'm very fortunate to have married well, and I'm blessed by my kids, so they're not a burden. But I want us to keep in mind that when you ask people to go, when you tell people to go, they've still got families that they're leaving behind. And at certain stages and seasons, you're not as, I guess I will say, useful, but I feel like I'm a pretty useful piece of my family, and I definitely didn't want to go just because I know that would be a big piece gone. But because I've got that amazing wife and the support system, like it made it possible. And I know a lot of folks probably just tuned out right now because they go on, there's a guy here that does over-the-road trips and conferences basically every other weekend. And so it's just kind of built into their family structure, but that's not how my family is built. And so it was definitely a shock. But what a wonderful thing. What a great trade-off. I posted on my Instagram that this has just been a life-changing professional event for me. Like, I have always been excited. I'm passionate about woodworking. I love helping kids and teaching and giving them an exciting experience in the wood shop. But now it's just tenfold. I mean, the connections that I made, the things that I saw, where the industry is going as far as machines, like it's exciting. It's scary at times. But talking through and getting to meet some of these people too, like Maureen Johnson had this great big robot moving stuff right as I walked in, and I thought, boy, that's got to be the number one thing. And they are special. They're a great company. I met their owner, Tony, and he's friends with the guys at Safety Speed, and they're friends. But I get walking around the show, and well, it seems like just about everybody who had a CNC to show, they also had a robotic arm or some sort of automation where you take that human element out of it, which kind of made me sad at times, because like that's kind of becoming the case because they don't have these jobs to fill. But I'm not one who fears automation. I don't fear that that's going to be the case. I mean, if it makes that designer or that cabinet maker's job that much easier to eliminate some of that high volume kind of stuff and that repetitive work, like robotic sanding, that is what I want to come to Coon Rapids as soon as possible, because I hate sanding, and I know that rubs off on the kids. I tell them it's a big time important thing to do, but man, it's whenever they see me do it, they usually don't see a smile on my face. And I'm coming from a background where I spent several summers doing that nonstop from 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., where it was just, hey, you and a buffer, a DA sander, or whatever piece that I'm sanding, it's that all day long. And hopefully a headset, and hopefully it's charged up so I can enjoy some audiobooks or podcasts. And if not, I am just going to get really bored and stare at some of the other builders and try to have conversations when people come by and fill my time up that way. But seeing those robots, that was pretty neat. And like I said, if I saw a quarter of the show, I'd be shocked. And so there's so much that I miss. So you really got to take what I say here with a grain of salt. Assembly arms. The CNCs that really stuck out to me were Thermwood, Laguna, and Shop Saber. Shop Saber sticks out to me because I've got a Shop Saber CNC at Coon Rapids, and I actually led the charge at Cambridge to bring a Shop Saber CNC there, and that's because they're a Minnesota company, and I'm loyal there. But I understand there's other folks out there too that would be nice to have, and maybe some options that give us some more of those greater abilities of tool changing, automatic tool changing, and vacuum bed that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. So I'm thinking that'll come in 10 years is kind of my hope. I used to joke and say that'll be what I get my last year of retirement. And for perspective, I'm 32, so I probably got 30 years left. And so I'm hopeful that it doesn't take 30 years for me to get a tool changer on my CNC. But I've updated my goal to be inside of 10 years. That's happening at Coon Rapids where I teach. But just a little more background on the show. They're everything from cutting the tree down to the hardware that goes on it, all the CNC work, all the finishing, robotic finishing too. That was one thing that just blew me away too. Like there's a lot of variables that come into spraying finish, and now we're roboting, turning this into a robot. That's exciting. That is pretty cool. And not like everybody should be spooked that this is the future and they're never going to have any kind of craftsmanship in the woodworking industry again. Like this is the high volume stuff. This is ultra super production. There was hand tool, there were chisel booths. I'll think about it here in a minute, but there was one place that had a jig to make a chopstick with a block plane, and I'm trying to think of who that was because I want one at Coon Rapids. It was so cool. One of the other teachers on his feed, I think it was Cedar Ridge High School, they had some video and pictures of them doing that. But I really didn't get the opportunity to stand and shoot the breeze with many of these booths because I was just pulled in so many different directions and wanted to give my best to safety speed, and I just wanted to see it all. Like I can look at some block planes and some chisels and even up to CNCs and kind of get the gist of it and then move on, kind of make a little mental note, which I got to do a better job organizing this. They've got opportunities to help you organize. I'm just not a organized guy, but I've got 3 stacks of business cards that I've kind of deciphered and a whole pile of magazines and whatnot that I'll get to eventually here, but I want to talk about this while it's still fresh in my mind, and so this is not going to come out for a little bit, but right now it's August 14th. It's been about a week since I left the show, and it's just phenomenal. So more on the show, like they had booths set up for things as fine as like the filtering bags on your dust collection, and the folks who work with compressed air and trying to sell dryers for them. Like there's some real into the weeds kind of booths of things that we all use. We all use dust collection. We all use compressed air. We all deal with, bags that fail and air dryers that are poor, especially in the summer here in Minnesota. Last year I worked at a place where they didn't have any kind of drying system that I know of for their compressed air. So that first couple minutes of using that compressed air, you might as well just go out and pressure wash your car because it was basically just water coming out of that. And you don't want to mix that with some of these real intricate stuff. I mean, you can just totally blow out a joint if you get that wood wet or ruin some finish. And that wasn't going to be me, so I'd just be the one to spray out all that water first thing in the morning as it's been sitting there in the humid summers we have up here in Minnesota. There was also a really cool thing that's just things that I geek out on, and the sales staff kind of laughed at me because we're showing our saws. We're making a whole bunch of cuts on these sheets, and so we came with like 10 4x8 sheets, and we left the booth Friday with none of them, so we just made a whole bunch of decorative firewood. I happened to use 3 of those sheets for the projects that we made, but otherwise it all got tossed. It all got thrown away, and they weren't just throwing it out into the dumpsters. A company called Destroy Responsibly stepped up, and they offered to handle the waste from the show. And they had one of their great big hogs where you throw your, literally like a 12-inch by 12-inch chunk of wood, hardwood or plywood or whatever. Like it would probably eat up anything, but these great big gears came together with knives and blades on them and just blended them into dust. And it was kind of a chore to take all these scraps over there, and they were actually offering a paid service to take them for you. But I'm like, no, I want to see this thing. And I get out there back. It's Atlanta in the summer. It is about 100 degrees. There's no wind movement in this loading dock area. And, we could have just dumped it in the bin, and the salesman that I was with basically did that. But I'm like, hey, I want to see inside there. And they had a ladder set up for the other geeks like me that wanted to look through the window and see that get chewed up. And I took some video of it, but it wasn't really good. I mean, it was pretty fogged up from the heat, and there's, as you can imagine, dust everywhere, so it wasn't a great video, but just seeing that thing just turn that wood into nothing was so fun just for me. I mean, it doesn't add anything to the program or anything, but it's just the kind of stuff that I geek out on. More kind of about the show, like it was fun shooting the breeze. I'm not a salesman, but it was nice when people would come by the booth and say that they've got a sander, or we got a screw pocket machine, or everybody's got a panel saw from us, it seems. They'd stop by, and I'd ask them about their operation, and I'd ask them just some questions like, what's the most interesting thing that your shop does? And most of them were just cabinet shops, so they wouldn't say anything too out of the norm, or they'd have a neat filing system. If I'm talking to an owner or a ownership structure, like that's boring. Like I'd just tell them, like, I'm not interested in that. Like, what does your shop do? What do you guys make? You have some pictures. Are you on Instagram? Are you doing anything in your community? Like, what are you doing there? And so it was kind of fun to shoot the breeze there. And it was honestly kind of disappointing too, because I would try to transition into telling them about my own project here and the stuff I'm doing on social media and this podcast. And I would just ask them, this random business owners from North Carolina or Vietnam or Zimbabwe, Japan. Like, I talk to people from all over the world who are in the woodworking industry, and I just ask them what their shop programs are like in their local high schools. And there was only like one or two of the hundreds that I talked to that had a firm answer of what it was like in there. And some of it was, kind of expected. They don't make any money off of that, but there's a lot of folks that graduated from those communities. So, I mean, there should be some understanding, even if they didn't take the programs there. But that was really disappointing, and so that's kind of what I'm hopeful that this venture of mine kind of closes that gap and gets people thinking about, I wonder what that high school a mile south of me has for a wood shop, and what kind of machines do they have in there. But the folks that did know about their programs, sometimes it would just infuriate me, and I understand why, but they would say, yeah, we actually wanted to donate one of our show models or one of our showroom pieces to the high school, and I just couldn't get a hold of anybody. I'd call and say, hey, I want to donate lumber, I want to donate some off-cut solid surface material, and you wouldn't get calls back. And that just infuriates me, because one, like, is your program not running? Is the administrator not competent to pass along that information? Because they probably interviewed or emailed the principal or called the principal, because that's usually that first contact that shows up on their website. But that was really disappointing. But I'm kind of going through that battle now. Cab Master actually donated a seat of software, so I'll have Cab Master software coming to Coon Rapids this fall, and that's a huge win for us, because we're just drawing on Google SketchUp, which is by no means a professional cabinet software. Cab Master has got the power to output a cut list. They can output to CNC. They can optimize it for making as few cuts and using as much of the sheet stock as possible. So, I mean, this is a professional level software, and they're the biggest cabinet software in Australia. Now, because they're from Australia, they come with some trouble to actually get that download, which no trouble for me, but I'm on an email chain right now, in fact. Hopefully by the time this comes live that it's all been hammered out, but there are 9 people on this email train trying to figure out how to get this free download. And this is like a $3,000 value that they're just giving us. They're asking why, they're trying to donate. Then they're pencil pushers at the district office, and they're great people, and they're good watchdogs. But like, come on, I'm the teacher. It's not like I'm some community member that's just trying to pass off some software that's got a bunch of bugs in it. Like, this is a top tier professional cabinet software, and just that headache kind of makes me think, the heck with it, we'll just stick with pencil and paper and Google SketchUp, because hey, I've already got that curriculum already written, and so there's no extra work for me. But I see that as an opportunity to really advance my classes and make it more usable, even if they're not an Australian person or looking to learn the Australian way. This is still a professional level cabinet software, and their CABmaster is advancing. They've got an office in Texas, so they're here, which helps with the logistics of me being able to accept this donation. If they didn't have that office, it might be the fact that I would have to say no to that generous offer that they were so nice enough to give. So I get that, but that's where we got to try to break down some of this bureaucracy that makes this that difficult to work with industry inside of the schools. But anyway, let's get back to some of the show stuff and some of the personal stuff. So I mentioned this is all personal. I kind of getting into the weeds here, but I got those young kids. All right. My wife stays at home, so I'm the sole income of our family, and just eating out for just my wife and I, if we're just going somewhere and not getting appetizers or drinks or anything, like, we do that probably 6 times a year. And I'm sorry, sweetheart, if you're listening to this, because that's sad for me, because I know how much I enjoy it and I know how much you enjoy it, but it's expensive. It is so expensive. Now you add in 1, 2, 3 kids into that, like, you're not getting out of there for less than $75, no matter like how hard you try. And Safety Speed was so nice. They picked up the check for every meal. They picked up the check for the flight, the check for the hotel. And I voluntarily flew Spirit because I wanted to get back in time, and they had that 6 a.m. flight so I can make it back for my son's birthday. But everybody rolls their eyes and they're like, oh, you got Spirit. And for context, I've flown like 3 other times in my life, and I'm not one to travel alone. So this also, too, like, not wanting to go, like, this is going to be a professional challenge for me. I don't know how to navigate an airport. Like, I've never had to do this before. Is my license enough? We've got this Real ID thing going on in Minnesota. Like, am I going to be able to even get out of the airport here? Like, is this going to work? So luckily it all did, and Spirit did delay the heck out of me that first day, which was really a bummer too, because I planned on getting there for dealer day, that August 5th day, and walk the show as much as possible, and of course help the Safety Speed setup crew get stuff going too, because I know a little bit about their saws, having worked there and having used their stuff for as much time as I have. So I mean, I wanted to get there. I wanted to see the show. I mean, as soon as the sadness left and I said goodbye to my family and gave them all great big hugs, like, I'm definitely sad in that moment, and like decide, like, maybe I don't go, maybe I just quit right here and stay home. But like, we had everything set up. In-laws were over. My father-in-law drove me down too, which was so nice, which I didn't know we'd get comped for mileage. Like, that just shows what is going on in the industry, is they take care of their people. Now, I got an email from our staff, just flyer getting ready for school, and we got open house August 28th. I'm so excited. I'll get to see my students that day, and they'll say, hey, we got a food truck coming too. Now, I know those food trucks aren't going to be covered. I'm going to have to pay for those out of my own pocket. And it is so frustrating, because the willingness of industry to treat their employees right is not even questioned. Like, I'll go out to dinner with them, and they're not going to ask me, what, do you really need to have a pop? Maybe we just have water for this. Like, they're going to treat you well, because they understand they're asking you to stay outside of your comfort zone. Just like an open house time where I got to stay till 8 p.m. So I don't know. That's just me crying in my beer here. But kind of getting back to it, once the sadness from leaving my family went, now that I'm at the show and now that I'm in Atlanta, I feel that Atlanta heat. Like, get me there. The Georgia World Congress Center is somewhere around here. Like, get me there. And I got delayed from Spirit just because there was weather. I totally understand that. There was some delay getting my bag, and it's not like I'm looking for the turnstile trying to find my bag. It just took them an hour to get my bag off of the plane, and so now I realized, like, okay, maybe I just check a bag, because I truthfully only filled that thing half full, and kind of planned it that way too, so I can bring home a bunch of souvenirs for my kids and my wife. But, like, come on, like, I'm ready to get there. And I've Ubered before, but it's been a while since I had to download the app, had to update payment and try to navigate that. So that's another half hour. And all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock. I'm on my way in the Uber to the hotel, and our head of sales here calls, Sean. He calls and says that, hey, we're heading back. Just wanted to let you know we're going to meet for dinner at about 5 or so. And I'm like, just devastated, because I'm looking at all the big buildings. I'm seeing all the things that are going on and all the hustle and bustle of the Georgia rush hour, and like, I'm excited. And I was like, I missed it. I missed that first day, and that's just such a bummer. But that night, went and met with the Safety Speed gang, and we went out to dinner, and that was fun because it was just us. The next few days when we went out to dinner, it would be with other companies or with our dealers that we work with, I'm trying to think what that last one was, but it's just it was fun to have that camaraderie that first night, and then revving up for that first day of the show where everybody is welcome. That was really exciting. Didn't get much sleep that night. I was nervous. I was worried about my family, trying to see how that's going. Dinner took forever too to get to us. Kind of seemed like the Atlanta way was to have really, really good food, but you are going to have to wait an hour for it after you order. And I know that's just kind of spotty here, so I was grateful. Like, I'm getting paid for, like, I'm networking with these guys, I'm getting to know them, and it's a good thing, I guess. But let's see here. I got to enjoy Waffle House. That's not up here in Minnesota, so that was fun. I had Shake Shack at the airport, which I'm actually discovering now that I've told this to several people. I told my brother, and he was like, yeah, they got Shake Shack here. Like, it's at the malls here. Like, it's not a big-time thing. I went out to Washington, D.C. about, maybe 10 years ago, and had Shake Shack there, my wife and I, and it was just like, oh, this is awesome. So that was, let's see, dinner after the first day was exciting because went out as just a team. And then I'm trying to think that this is why I want to do this before, because I'm trying to kind of losing my mind here. Maybe while I think about that, I had to talk about the hotel. So this wasn't just some, Motel 6 cheapy. We went to the Marriott Marquis, which is downtown Atlanta, and so we're by everything in case we did get hungry or needed to have some sort of creature comfort or some service at the hotel. Like, it was all there. It was expensive, but it was all there. And that first day when I got there, I was just so thirsty. I went and bought a pop, and it was a $6.50 pop, which just I shriek at because that was like, oh my gosh. But needed caffeine, needed a quick drink. It is hot in Atlanta, so that was something there. But I posted some video on my Instagram of what that hotel is like. It's probably 50 stories high, and on the inside it's hollow. All the hotel rooms are on the outside of the building, so you can look up from inside 50 stories, and it's just beautiful. It's decorative. And I was 32nd floor, so once I get out there, like, I walk off the elevator and I'm kind of like wobbly-legged because it's so high up there. And you look out your window, floor-to-ceiling windows in the hotel room. Like, that was awesome. And again, all this paid for by Safety Speed. Like, they treat their employees well, and I'm just kind of their sideshow. Building writing curriculum and building stuff at their show and networking as much as I can and marketing and sales. Like, I don't know what my return on investment was, but they invested a lot in me. So I'm hopeful that this gets out there. You guys buy their saws, and they'll have a customer and a follower for life. That's for sure. But so hotel was awesome. Actually, I should just mention this. So I checked out at about 2 a.m. on that my son's birthday when I'm leaving, and as I'm checking out, it was kind of funny, just the the scene down there. There was someone who had snuck into the hotel and fallen asleep on the 10th story railing inside the building. And that was just like, oh my gosh, you could have died. Like, what the heck happened? And, security was dealing with them, and I was just kind of eavesdropping as I'm out of there. And I was just kind of like, oh boy, this is, time to go home. But kind of get back to the restaurants. After that first full day at the show that I was there, we took a whole bunch of the dealers that work with Safety Speed and Original Saw Company. They make radial arm saws and some stands and things like that. Got to go out to dinner with them, and that was a real experience too, because this was at a nice steak dinner place where I would, this would be like an anniversary date I'd bring my wife to, and we'd probably order the cheapest stuff, but they were bringing all their dealers. We got tables for like 40 people, and there's all of these we take over Atlanta, just woodworkers everywhere from the eye, as far as the eye can see. And so, like, even in the other booths, we would see, some people from Thermwood or Laguna or, some other shop or some other people there looking to buy. So it's just a fun atmosphere to be in. And I happened to sit by the Original Saw owner, and he brought his family down. He's got some kids that are in high school, and I got to know him. Like, he's a big player in this industry, and I'm just having dinner next to him along with some of our sales guys, and get to know his wife who works there too, and the kids who help out at the booth, and just share some non-work related stories are really fun too, because it just allows you to get to know them. And this is the teacher method too, right? Like, if you're trying to teach a hard student, you don't talk about the content right away. Like, you ask them about the basketball player on their shirt, or you got a skateboard with you, cool, where do you like to ride, things like that. Like, that's basically what this was, just in a totally different context, and adult beverages and expensive delicious steak dinners. And that was really cool, especially too because we kind of mingled afterwards, and it was really awkward for me too to kind of mingle at a restaurant, linger at a restaurant, because then I ended up talking with a couple of their Safety Speeds dealers from Mexico, either Mexico or Puerto Rico. I honestly don't remember, but there was very low language commonality, so it was hard to get to know them all that much. But I got to tell them about what I was doing and tried to make it as understandable. Showed them on my phone, the silly videos and whatnot that I do in my classes, and they seem to enjoy that. And we're having dessert, and it was fun too, because a bunch of the Safety Speed guys wanted to go back to the hotel before that next event at the Tabernacle, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to go straight there. Like, I was dressed, I'm good, I don't need to freshen up, and I want to talk to these people more. Like, I don't know if I'll be back in 10 years based on my family or based on if I can afford to go. So I'm trying to get as much as I can out of these folks and learn as much as I can. So it just so happened as Brian Donahue left, he left his cell phone on the table, and he actually knocked on the window. We were by the window, and he's like, hey, grab my phone. And I was going to quick run it out to him, but he's like, no, because we're going to the Tabernacle afterwards, which is a event center, kind of a concert venue hall kind of place. And it was really a moral conundrum there, because like, wow, I've got the president's phone right here, I've got his email, I've got his contacts, like, what do I do here? And of course I didn't do anything. I'm a Boy Scout with things like that. But when we did get to the Tabernacle, we're trying to find place to sit and kind of view and chat and network with some people. And I just mentioned to a couple of the people that knew Brian, like, hey, let's take a selfie, like, let's fill up Brian's inbox or his photos with a whole bunch of selfies of us, just kind of being silly and having some fun. So that was kind of fun. And he found it later that night and just had a lot of funny things to say about that because of who we got pictures with. So I'll leave it at that. That was just kind of fun. But that's the good natured kind of stuff that went on. And at the Tabernacle, I kind of talked about this because this is where I met Mark Smith, or ran into Mark Smith, teacher of the year for the WIA. But it was just a party scene, and it was expensive to get into this place. But again, Safety Speed picked up that tab, and they paid for the financer of our company here, who's just our bank person who we help people who need to finance their saws and equipment through. Like, we go, paid for her, paid for some of the other dealers that wanted to go. And I think it was $75 a ticket to watch this super loud country artist play. And I love country music and I love Western, so I love both kinds of music. But it wasn't my scene until Mark Smith came up on stage, and when he did, that just like, okay, I am glad that I'm here now, because I would much rather be back at the hotel or just walking Atlanta, because Atlanta is so cool too. Downtown they've got the Coke Museum where Coca-Cola is from, and they were the 96, I think it was 96 Olympics, so like walk through Olympic Park one of the mornings. That was fun just to kind of see all the stuff that went on there. But let's see, after the Tabernacle, that shut down our night, and it was just kind of a high riding after getting to meet Mark Smith. Now, let's see, that last, or maybe that next day, we didn't have any programming, just another salesman and I went out to dinner, which was fun. We got kids about the same age, so we could shoot the breeze about that. He's got a big maple tree in his backyard, and so I'm telling him he's got to tap his maple syrup tree, because that's a fun thing to do, and even better with kids. I can't speak enough about the show, like how wonderful and an experience this was for me professionally and personally. Like my family grew just because like we have this under our belt now that we can do this, and I never doubted my wife, but now it's like, yeah, she's done this on her own too. So how cool is that? Let me see here. I think that's about all I had to report on as far as the scene down there. I mean, I was there for the woodworking, so a lot of the personal and professional kind of cross paths. And what's kind of nice is that I was sad to leave Minnesota. I was sad to leave Atlanta, but I mean, as soon as you're in the airport, and this is probably how everybody feels, like I'm so excited to get down to Atlanta. Can't wait to connect with woodworkers. But then once I was in Atlanta airport, getting ready to head back to Minnesota, I had my souvenirs, had my snacks for the plane, but I'm ready to shut it down. Like, I'm trying to be online as much as possible, but it's like I don't care. I'm seeing my family in 5 hours. I'm seeing them in 2 hours. I'm seeing them in 1 hour. They left. I can follow my wife's location on the van, and then I get to see them. And the way that the Minneapolis airport is set up, you got to do the stop and go bumper to bumper while people are offloading and unloading and loading into their cars. And I quick threw my bags into the back of our van, and my wife and I big hug, embrace, and just so nice to be back with my person. Like, that was the biggest thing. And that was my son's birthday, so I burst into the back of the van. We've got one seat down, and so my wife hopped back into the driver's seat, and my daughter, my 3.5-year-old daughter, she couldn't even say anything. She was just screeching because I'm back. Daddy's home. And my son was just so excited too. He's got maybe 200 words. He's not doing sentences yet, but on that day he was exactly 2 years old, and he's just, Daddy, airplane, hi, home, Atlanta, and just all these like exciting and smiles. And he's got a new blanket and new toy with him. And then I was able to say hi to my newborn, who gave me his great big smile. All of them were awake. None of them were screaming. It was just a wonderful moment. And I got to give them their souvenirs, some little monkeys and a backpack, and got my wife a really nice sweater. Got my newborn a little bell. It's probably not a baby toy now that I think about it, but he'll have just his rattles, and so I got a bell that said Atlanta on it, and so that's what we'll always remember. And I'm so grateful, just so grateful I got this opportunity. So thankful for Safety Speed, thankful for the IWF, the WIA. Like, everybody had an awesome impact on my classroom, on my own professionalism, and it's just a great thing. So and I missed it at the beginning of the show, but please make sure to rate and review this show. Subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'll see you next week. Thanks.